It's a happy day for me. When we leave here, we go home and I get to watch the Daytona 500. Sad day for Debbie. Because that's the beginning of the C races, 3 races every weekend. But we made a deal a long time ago. I don't watch all the other sports. I'll keep it to one. We'll start off with the scripture today. It's Philippians, the 4th chapter and verse 8. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Those are words we need to memorize and keep in our hearts. They're the heart of God's practical psychology. You can save yourself a couple of $50 sessions if you just pay attention to that and put that into your mind. However, how do we manage to do those things and think on those things in this evil world? Because when you look out, there's a whole lot that isn't honorable, pure, nice. How do we handle that? Anxiety, worry, and fear. These are emotions that come naturally to us when we contemplate the evil in this world. And if we dwell on these emotions, they morph into hate. And that's something that does not belong in a Christian's life. We'll turn to Matthew 5:44. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and he sends rain on the just and on the unjust. We can't let the evils of this world take our eyes away from those things that are good and those things that are profitable. And we can't let our emotions turn into hate, where we hate this person or hate that, or we hate this. But it's easy to do, isn't it? It's easy to let that evil just overcome us. The first thing that we need to understand is that we're not the only ones who have ever had to struggle with evil. We're not the only generation that has ever had to look out on a world that is spinning rapidly downhill. I want you to turn to see a world that is where it looks like evil is winning. When you look at this world, it looks like evil's winning. But we're not the only ones that ever did. I want you to look at the book of Habakkuk, the first chapter, verses 2 through 4. No, it's not tobacco, it's Habakkuk. It's and I'll give you time to find that. It's even hard to find that on your tablet because that's not a book we go to all the time. Habakkuk, the first chapter, and we'll read verses 2 through 4. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help? And will you not hear? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see iniquity? And why do you idly look at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth, for the wicked surround the righteous. So justice goes forth perverted. Sounds like Habakkuk lives today. Our world is not that different from the situation that Habakkuk found himself in. God's people had turned from God. They were doing all sorts of wrong and it wasn't being punished. It just didn't make sense. If you want to overcome fear, anxiety, and worry, you need to have faith. Habakkuk's faith was shaken because he didn't understand. We have our ideas of how God should run this world and how he should handle problems and what speed he should do that at. The only problem with that is his ideas are oftentimes very different than ours. That's what Habakkuk had to find out. God had an answer to the problem. God has an answer to the problem in our world. Habakkuk didn't like God's answer. We may or may not like God's answer. The fact is, it doesn't matter. Habakkuk found it out. He found out God's answer to Israel's evil was to raise up the Chaldeans to punish them. You can read the second chapter of Habakkuk. Well, you can imagine that that didn't please Habakkuk very much. I think he'd much rather God look out at the evil people in Israel and just take them out and keep the nation there, but that wasn't God's way. Now, a little side note that relates to our culture too. God can use ungodly people to get godly results. God used unrighteous men to bring his people back to righteousness. If you look at our world today and all of the political strife, First of all, there's not many out there that are outwardly godly, are there? On any side. And then we've seen all the scandals with the politicians, that even the ones that appear to be outwardly godly, many times are inwardly very ungodly. And to bring it back home, you cannot look at any religious group that does not have its evil men hiding, pretending to be angels of righteousness when they are purely the devil's servants. It comes out all the time, doesn't it? Guess what? Doesn't matter. God can use ungodly people to do godly things. God had to explain to Habakkuk that the Chaldeans would pay for their sins. Just because God uses you to accomplish His purposes doesn't mean that you won't be held personally accountable for those things that you did. Now, here comes one of the key verses. Turn to Isaiah 8:11-13. Put my finger on it, lost it again. I want you to write this one down and keep it, because it's really important to surviving in this world. For the Lord spoke thus to me with His strong hand upon me, and warned me not to walk in the way of this people, saying, do not call conspiracy all that this people calls conspiracy, and do not fear what they fear, nor be in dread. But the Lord of hosts, Him you shall regard as holy. Let Him be your fear, and let Him be your dread. If you want to get rid of anxiety, fear, worry, you have to have faith that the Lord is the Lord of hosts, and He has everything in control. Don't worry about conspiracies. Don't worry about political shenanigans. God has it in control, and it's going to work out the way He wants it to. Now, God expects me to live obedient, to vote morally, and to show God's love to every person because of my love and compassion, so that people can see Jesus in me. Because I too have to stand for my personal actions. But doesn't matter, because God has things in control. It will work out the way He wants it to. Now, I have the way I want God to fix things. Because in my infinite infinite knowledge. I know just exactly the way things should work and exactly who's right and exactly who's wrong. And isn't that what everybody sounds like, even though they don't use those words? We all have the way we want things to work out. The thing is, God's plan is right. Even if it's not our plan. Turn back to Habakkuk, and this time we're going to be in the 3rd chapter. And we're going to be reading verses 17 through 19. Though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, the produce of the olive fail, and the fields yield no food, the flock be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. God, the Lord, is my strength. He makes my feet like the deer's. He makes me to tread on my high places. If the world keeps going evil and more evil piles up, I will praise the Lord and rejoice in Him. Amen. If the exact wrong people get into office and run this country even further in the dumps than it is, like Habakkuk, I will take joy in the God of my salvation. I have to have faith that God knows better than I do and accept His will. And when I do that, there is no more anxiety. There is no more worry. There is no. You can tell me all the bad things in the world, and I will still think about the good things. Because I don't have to worry about the bad things, because God's got that handled. God has my six. That is what gives us strength, gives us power. Like we said, it's easy to turn fear to hate because we hate what we fear. That's where hate comes from. You're afraid of things. It's easy to do that. I mean, after all, we are hardwired. We have a little part of our brain called the amygdala, and we're hardwired with the fight or flight reflex. It's hardwired into us, and it's faster than our thinking. It's there. Well, not all fight or flight is physical. Anxiety, worry, fear, that all triggers that reflex. And it's so easy for that to go to hate because there's nothing else we can do. You can't run. You want to fight. You want to hate. That's what happens to us. But there's an answer to it. That answer is love. Turn to 1 John, the 4th chapter, and read verses 18 and 19. 1 John 4, 18 and 19. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. I'm going to stop there because, boy, oh yeah, but oh, I just doesn't. Now let's read the rest of it that makes us understand. We love because he first loved us. When we understand, think about the good, the right, the proper, all those things from Philippians. When we think about the love that Jesus Christ showed to us, and we allow that love to fill us up, we don't have fear anymore. We're not afraid of punishment coming to us. We're not afraid of things that are going to happen. We know that God loves us, and he is going to take care of us. That love will cast out that fear, which will cast out that hate. We started off with love your enemies. But how? Why? Because you were an enemy to God, and Jesus died for you. I was an enemy to God, and Jesus died for me. When we get filled with his love, we will understand something that I think we as Christians sometimes really fail to understand. Turn to Ephesians 6, 12 to 13. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Our battle is not against the forces of evil in Washington, the forces of evil in Iran. Our battle is against the forces of evil in heaven. Those servants of Satan here on earth, they're not the enemy. Satan's the enemy. Our goal is not just to make it to heaven. Our goal is to seek and save the lost. You can't do that if you hate them. Now, if we're to have faith that God's plan will work,